Welcome back to another LP Gallery tutorial. Today we're going to continue our series on creating your own PowerPoint clip art by creating bells. So we're going to create something like this. We'll create a nice gold bell, but here's some examples of what you can do with them. Maybe you're doing a Christmas PowerPoint presentation. Well, you can create your own little bells, add some little pine greens, add a bow. We've got other videos that show you how to do this. So if you've never done this, you can watch those videos, show you how to take a simple shape and duplicate it and turn it into something that looks very complex. So again, these are all very simply done. Here's one that has maybe 25th silver anniversary. And the advantage, of course, creating your own clip art is that you can customize it. So you can put numbers on it, you can type people's names on it. You can really customize these things to exactly what you want. So that's one of the biggest advantages of creating your own PowerPoint clip art. Okay, so we're going to start off by creating just this one little golden bell, and it looks complex as all our things do, but as you notice, if you followed our other tutorials, they're very simple. The real trick here is the actual reflections. It is the reflections that create the roundness to this bell. So we're going to be using just a couple of shapes to create the bell, but it's all going to be done in the gradients and primarily in the reflections. So it's actually working a little different than normal, where we actually add color and things to build something. Here we're actually working with reflections to build the object. So let's get started. To create the top part of the bell, there's two shapes that work pretty good. So you could use the delay shape, which is from the flow chart. So I'll draw that and I'll just show you what it looks like. I'm going to rotate it. You get a nice kind of a half dome shape like this. You can see it's got the good start to the bell. Now this will give you straight edges. So if you want a bell that has more straight edges, this one works quite well. Now if you want a bell that looks more like this, that's more rounded than this, then you're probably going to want to choose a different shape. Now the one that I found that works the best for me is the pie shape. So I'm going to draw a pie shape, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to have the top part of the pie just like this. Now the reason I like the pie shape over this one is that I can get more roundness to it. So if I squish it like this, I still get a nice dome shape, but it's rounded rather than having straight edges. And I can stretch it out like this, and I still get the roundness to it like a bell would be. So you have two choices here, whether you want to go a straight edge or more rounded edge. So I'm going to do more of a rounded edge like this. Okay, that's step number one. So that's the top part. This one I'll get rid of. And now we have to create the wide end here of the bell. So what shape do you use for that? There's only one that really works well with that, and here it is. It is going to be your nice little trapezoid shape right there. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to draw that, and you can see immediately what we're getting. And the trapezoid has a shape handle, so it allows us to bend it to basically any shape we want. And we get that. So depending how big you want the bell, how wide you want the bell, you can stretch the bell part out even wider and use the shape handles to bring it in like this. And there it is. So with two shapes, you got a very simple bell shape. We're going to get rid of the outlines, and we have that. So now we have to apply our color to it. So we're going to use a gold color. Now I happen to be in PowerPoint 2013. Means that my theme colors already have a gold in it. Now if you're in a different version of PowerPoint, you may have to create your gold. I will just show you how it works, how we're going to actually create gold with my gold theme. And again, if you don't have the gold color, you'll just have to go to your palette and get some of your yellows and browns to make the gold color. So let's start off with this. So we're going to put a gradient, and you get a default gradient. I don't want that one. So I'm going to go here, and you can see my theme colors. I already have a gold here. So I'll just use one of these. So I have something like that. The trick is going to be adding the dark and light gold together. What I like to do is add a dark part like this, always to my gold shapes. It just makes it look like there's a shadow coming off of it from somewhere. And it just adds a little more dimension. So I'm going to be doing that here. So here's my golds, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to make this one, let's see, I'm going to make it a darker gold. And what I'm going to do is make it a little darker by taking the brightness down. Now what I want to do, of course, is I want to rotate it, because I want the dark part to be on this side. So I'm going to rotate it. So we have something kind of like that. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to add just a lighter gold, something like that. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to make that even lighter. Maybe something like that. Now I'm going to click here and let's see, maybe I'll add a little more darkness, and I'll take this one and I'm going to take its brightness down. So it's going to be a little bit darker. So it's kind of like this. Let's see. Now I want my dark part to be a little more over here. So I'm going to again rotate it. So I have the dark part more like, kind of like that. So I want the dark right here, like you kind of see over there. Okay, now you can play with these. You can move these around. You can move these around. Something like that. But I think that's pretty good. Okay, you can drag these in. But I think it's all the gold we need. So I got a little bit dark, a little bit of light, and that's perfect. So again, if you don't have the gold colors here, you're going to just have to mix some yellows and browns to kind of get that. I'm going to take my format painter and I'm going to apply it to that one. Now I want this darkness to be here, so I'm going to have to rotate it. And we're going to get it kind of like rotate around so it's kind of like the same way. Kind of like this. Okay. So I have something like that. And we have gold on this side and we have a dark edge. Take it a little more darker. I'm going to just bring that both of these down just a little bit more. A little more dark. There's that part. Now what we got to do is we got to add the reflections. And that's what's going to really make the bell shape. How do we do that? What shape do we use? Well, we're going to use a shape that you wouldn't probably have thought of, that we've already used in previous videos. It's one of my favorite shapes. It's called the wave shape. So you're going to see how the wave shape actually does a really good job creating a bell-shaped type of reflection. So let's go get it. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to stars and banners. Going to use a wave, just like this. Now you'll probably recognize this if you followed other tutorials, because that's how we created our bows with it. So we're going to take our shape panel, do that, and the magic is this one here. We want actually to go just like that. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip that the other way. So I'm going to go to format, rotate, flip it horizontally, and I get this. And I'm going to just rotate, and I'm going to just stretch it out. And what you kind of get with this is you kind of get a natural bell-shaped curve. Do you see that? I'm going to just take it in like this. And what you get is a natural shape that actually almost flows like the bell. Now I'm going to remove the outline. And the trick here now, of course, is to add the reflections. Basically, we'll use a white. We'll use a gradient. And we're going to move all these. And we're going to just use a white to a white. So I'm going to take white to white. The trick here is going to be blending the nice reflection into the gold background. That means we're going to make one of the stops transparent. And what I'm going to do now is make this transparent. So I'm going to take that one and just make it totally transparent. And we have something like this. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it a little more. So we get more darker here and a little bit more transparent here. Now, I want it to be really transparent on this side. So what I do is I take this stop that's already transparent and I drag it to the left, and you can see what happens. So it starts cutting into this other color and you get something like that. So what you're starting to get now is a nice reflection that actually follows the shape of the bell. So I've got one like that, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to just flip it horizontally. Now I've got one that goes on the other side. And you can see right off the bat, we're getting a nice bell shape. Okay, so the next thing is we got to add the rest of the reflections. So we got to have a nice reflection here and here, because this kind of comes out. So what kind of shape could we use? Well, this looks like a triangular shape, so why don't we use a triangle shape to fit on that? So let's do that. Let's go get a triangle shape. Well, let's say take this one, and we'll draw a triangle. And I'm going to just rotate it so it kind of matches that. And we can just kind of stretch it out a bit. Okay, now I don't need the outline. Actually, what I'll do is I think I'll just bore this. I'll take that fill and apply it to this one. Okay, so we got something like that. Okay, now in this case, what I want to do is I actually want to add another stop. I'm going to add another stop here. And it's going to be white. And I'm going to make that one transparent. Now this one used to be transparent. I'm actually going to put the color back in by dragging it back. And this one I'm going to make transparent. So what I'm going to have is transparency in both edges. You can see that right here. And then I can just rotate this. So I can rotate it and I can figure out which way I want the reflection to go. Kind of like this. I think I'm going to have it kind of going up like this. And all I have to do is take these stops in. And when I do that, you can see what happens. That they cut into the color and they fade away. So again, I'm getting some nice reflections here. And I think I'm going to straighten it out a bit like this. Okay, so I can move this around. Get some nice reflections. Bring these in. And make them more transparent. Okay, so I'm going to take this just a little bit down. And we have something that looks like that. Now we take that. And we put it over here. And we flip that one. And we put that one to the side. And you have that. I'll just take these down a bit. Okay, so you can see how these are starting to build up. We're getting nice reflections in here. Now what about the center part? Okay, we got to do something about the center. I think what we'll do is just take a square shape. I think all we have to do is take a square shape and draw a square shape here. Take one of these. We're going to borrow the fill from that. Apply it to this. And we're going to rotate it. So it goes up like that. And we get something like that. We can drag these back a bit. And there it is. So you can see the bell shape coming very nicely with the reflections. So there's your reflections, and we're really getting a nice bell shape look to it. Okay, now what about the center part? We got to do something about the center because it's pretty obvious there. So I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to rotate it. Something like that. And we can do something just kind of like this. All we want to do is kind of cover this. Now what I'm going to do, of course, is add one stop here. So I want the transparency top and bottom and the color in the middle. So I'm going to add another stop here. And that's going to be, make sure it's white. And we're going to make sure that's transparent. So this one again, I'm going to put it back to full color. And this one I'm going to make transparent, just like that. So we get something like this. And as always, we can just bring these in. And these can be moved around, okay? And we got something that kind of looks like that. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to make it a little transparent, the middle one itself. So just we get something this. We get some reflections, some shadows. You can also play with the shape handle. You can move them around and I think maybe something like that. A little fuzzy thing like that. So just by playing with the shape handle, I got a little fuzzy effect. But it's enough to hide the edges there, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so we got something that looks like that. We need something up here to make it really look like the light's flowing across here. So it's coming from the back on top like this. Okay, so let's do that. So what shape would work best? Well, whenever I create round things, one of the favorite shapes I like to do to give that nice bright spot coming at top is this one right here. Nice little moon shape. So I'm going to draw a moon shape and I'm going to just rotate it. And we're going to take one of these. We're going to borrow the fill from that. Apply it to this. And you kind of get that. Okay, so I need to rotate this. Because I want the brightness to be here. And that's kind of all you need. Now what I love about the moon shape for this kind of stuff is that I got a nice shape handle. I can go fuzzy or I can go really sharp edge like this. I'm going to give it a sharp edge like that. And you can rotate this to your heart's content. But what it does give it the idea that there's a light coming here and we're going around it. So that's why I really like the moon shape for this. It really just adds, it's a perfect little spot there. Perfect, that's good enough. Okay, so we got our reflections in there and you can see that looks very three-dimensional. Now we got all kinds of things happening there. So what about this part? Now we got to create the inside. So how do we do that? That's pretty straightforward. What shape we're going to use? Well, we're going to just use a typical circle or ellipse shape. That's all we got to do. And we're going to put it like this. And we're going to borrow a nice gold from here. And we're going to grab the format painter, apply it, and there it is. Okay, so immediately you can see that we have the hollow inside. Okay, now that's not quite what we want. I do want it to be dark on the edges. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to take its brightness down. And I'm going to move this one here more to the center. And I'm going to bring these in. I'm going to bring everything more towards the center like this. So it's a little bit darker. And I'm going to, I think I want that white straight like that. And I think this one, I don't want them overlapping each other. So I might move this just a little bit over to one side. Good. So we have something like this. Now that looks pretty good. I think I'll bring it a little closer. Make it a little bit darker. Okay, now you could stop right here. But what if you wanted an edge? I like to put an edge around things. So let's put an edge. How do we do an edge? Well, you could probably cookie cut the edge, but there's a simpler way. So I'm going to just take this one. I'm going to copy it with my control button, hold it down. And I'm going to take this. I'm going to just rotate the blend just so it's a little bit different. Okay, something like that. Now all I have to do is take this one, put it on there, and guess what? You got an edge. And all I have to do is take this in, and there's an instant edge right there. Okay, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And you have an instant edge. And now we can take this one here, and we can still rotate it. So depending on how much you want to see, and you might want something like that. So there it is. So now you've got an edge, and you got the inside part, and it looks pretty good. Let's see, let's rotate this a little more maybe. And you can see that just rotating it, you get a bunch of different effects to it. So we have to create our little knocker in there. So how are we going to do that? Use our pie shape. And you pretty well know what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to draw it like this. We're going to take a half a circle. Make it a little bit smaller. Okay, let's say I borrow, let's say something from this. I'm going to go to my format painter, apply it, and there it is. And there, got that. Now that's not quite what I want. I want something a little more subtle than that. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to put the light here. Bring these up, and you can see I got that. And I'd like to have the light more to the bottom. Of course, you could indicate a light source by having it going that way, but I think I'm going to rotate it. And so have it more to the bottom like that. Kind of like that. You can see we have very nice gold shaped bell. And everything's working really quite well. And most of it was just created by the reflections. That part is done. Now we got to do the top part here. And we'll put a nice little ring. So what are we going to use for that? Well, again, we'll just use some simple shapes. Let's say, how about the donut shape? We take the donut shape. We make it a little thin, like this. Let's take one of these, copy our gold again, and let's apply it, and you got that. So depending on how thick or thin you want to make it, you have that. Now you could just use this one shape, that's it. But if you want to look three-dimensional, all you have to do, of course, is duplicate that, rotate the fill for that one, go another direction, just to kind of overlap them, and you get kind of a three-dimensional look to them. We just group that. And we send that to the back. And you got that. Okay, so there's your top part of the bell. Now, what about these stripes? Well, what's a bell without these little stripes? Now, you could use anything. You could type names in here. You could put all kinds of symbols in there, or you just do simple stripes. I could cookie cut circular shapes in here, but there's actually a simpler way to do this. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to my moon shape. I use that moon shape an awful lot, and I'm going to rotate it, and you kind of get the idea already. I'm going to put it here, take the shape panel, make it a little bit thinner, stretch it out. Okay, now obviously the thing is to make sure that the stripe is following the actual contour. So this is a little too high, so I just take it down. That looks more natural. And what I'll just do is copy one of these and apply it to that little stripe, and you have something like that. So there's a stripe. Now, of course, you can take this, and you want to try to match it as much as possible to the reflections here, but if you really want to make it stand out, you can, of course, just rotate the gold to whatever way you like. We can take that, and we just duplicate that, and we have another one. and just make sure it's stretched out to fill, and you got stripes there. Now what about down here? So we just take that, once again, stretch it out, and it looks pretty good. Now again, the nice moon shape has a wider center and a taper, so this is why it works so well, because you have the wider center and you're tapering. And again, if you want to rotate this for some different effect like that, you can of course rotate the colors, whatever you like. Now we have to make another one. So we just hold the control, duplicate, and we got another one. And you just do the same thing, stretch it out. Now again, you can cookie cut, so if you prefer to cookie cut something, you can of course cookie cut your little circular shape there. The reflections should be on top of everything. So now we got to select our reflections. And we have to bring them to the front because they should be on top of the stripes. And there you go. You have a nice bell-shaped piece of clip art. And that's pretty well about it. Now the last thing you want to do is you want to make sure that none of your reflections are actually going off the object itself. Now you can't tell here because you have a white background. So the last thing you probably want to do is just to take something like a rectangular shape and just send it to the back. Okay. So you can see we've got some reflections coming off, so we have to fix it. So on a white background, you don't notice that, but you definitely do it when you put a different colored background. Okay, so we can see we have one here. We got to fix that. And it's not totally necessary to always take the reflections to the edges like this. You can leave them like this, and that gives you a bit of a dark area there. It does provide a little bit of interest because you got dark to light, so it's not always necessary to take the reflection always to the edge. You can see here I just barely touched the edges here, so I still want some of the dark to come through. And I see I have to do one more thing. I have to bring this to the front. I want all this to come to the front. Now you just group it, and you can rotate it. You can have as many bells as you like. Now I did gold. You could do just about any color you want, silver, whatever color you like. And there are your bells. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, I hope you stick around for other tutorials, because again, we're going to continue with our idea of creating PowerPoint clip art using simple shapes, using simple gradients, and creating what looks like a complicated object very simply. When you create your own objects, you can customize them to your heart's content, and they're yours. Thank you for watching our tutorial, and we hope to catch you on the next one.